Yeah, when Bharat came to my office one day saying that we are trying to do this, different directions, what architects take, and how would you deliver a design studio? Thought about it quite a lot because it's one thing to think about design in the office and another when you're actually training young minds. And I felt that we should actually recreate the scenario that we do in an office in an educational setting, and actually take a problem. It could be fictitious, it could be live, and show them what really happens in a architectural practice. And one of the things that when I looked up the fifth semester design, which is the one I'm going to discuss, is that it actually mentions a project on an urban scale. And for a second when I read that, I thought I was in the wrong semester in the syllabus. And then I realized that VTU has taken a 5-year course and made it 4. And that is actually a tough compression. But then I guess we are not here to change that. Someone did mention that we should go back to the 5-year program, but that's a separate administrative problem. So I'll just stay with the 4-year academic component, and then in that, if a student has reached the 5th semester, it's probably equal to being in the 6th or 7th of a 5-year program, and it's okay for them to be able to tackle a higher level project. I think earlier Rajan mentioned that the initial 6 semesters are all 6 plus 4. The initial 6 were just exercises, and then you go into projects. Here, because of the compression, we are going into a serious project at semester 5. And so here we present a design studio as visualized by a practicing professional with an emphasis on the non-linear interdisciplinary design process that's routinely encountered in practice. In contrast to the traditionally safe and sound studio project, where students are isolated and ensconced in a safe environment. We want to pull them out of that safe environment. So that's another way to look at it. And I have actually divided this program into what would it be over 12 weeks. We were told to restrict it to 12 instead of 16. Again, it depends on the actual projects that you all come up with when delivering. Can you actually do something like this in 12 weeks? And sure, it depends on how detailed you want to go. And since we are not really getting into true working drawings and things like that, I think it's possible to have the students come up with something that's debatable at the end of the program. The project that we are looking at is something on an urban scale, and just the previous the speaker also mentioned on an urban context a transport interchange, but we are mixing it up. We want to have a transport interchange with a say a multi-level car park with a hotel. Make it a complicated urban scale building. So it's going to be a shopping center, mall. So the whole building, if you want to call it a single building or a group of buildings, has to be tackled both as a whole and in parts. So on the very first day, when the lecturer introduces, the faculty member introduces the project, another recommendation that we are asking that the universities to do is most of the time, since the projects are very varied in nature, from the third semester onwards, they start to get more and more difficult. It would be good if there is an in-house faculty member and a practicing architect who is specialized, who is recognized for the kind of work that is being done in that semester. Pull them in. And you have your studios handled by more than one person. There will be the faculty member, even within the department, you will have many faculty members with different areas of expertise. Pull them into a design studio, let it be, because it's a multidisciplinary project, have multidisciplinary experts come in. So the first day, the very first hour, you introduce the project, descriptions of the scale and scope, slides and studies showing projects of a similar nature. The lecturer has to be extremely well prepared with this. It cannot just be an introduction of the project and then the rest of the studios are handled by the students. A suggested reading list has to be issued to the students. Again, I think many architects have been saying that, we have to get back to reading. There's a whole wide-ranging body of knowledge that's out there, and the students are already swamped with so much work that our job is to guide them, is to give them the direction and ask them to take this reading up. And just the previous speaker also mentioned that you can make a concise, maybe a 30-page summary of the reading that should be done, and I'm for that. And you cannot just, it's a strong statement I'm making, you cannot simply wish this list away and say, go and Google it. The faculty member who is handling that course must come up with all the background work necessary to be, because he's going to be the guide and the students are going to look up to him or her. Specific books, verified websites, design standards, codes and statutory requirements must be exposed to the students. We are not asking them to do a detailed analysis of codes and statutory requirements, but they need to know that these things are going to come up. Then, in the second hour, you do a brief review of parallel academic studies completed to date. Now, this is the 5th semester, so the first 2 years, 4 semesters have already gone by. Whether it's building construction or history or structures or graphics, you pull in all that knowledge that they have already been exposed to. You review it. And then you spend 1 more hour reviewing all the things that they will be doing in parallel in that semester. In the 5th semester, there are other subjects that are coming in. Other than BC and structures, they're going to have services and sociology and theory and visual arts. So all these subjects can be discussed in relation to the project that's going to be developed in detail. And I was just joking with Salim a few minutes when we were having tea, is that let's say there's climatology is a subject in that semester, then some of the marks come into how well you adapted what you're studying into that project right there, if that's feasible. Then second studio. Now each of these studios is 3 hours long, as you know. Second studio, you get into a detailed description of the scale and scope of the design again. Brief of the proposed site. Something has to be chosen, obviously, unless you want to make it all up in the air. And preferably for a proposed or ongoing project, such as, in this case, we're talking about a traffic interchange. There are 3 cities where, close by to all the universities, where major urban renovation projects are happening in the form of metros, whether it's Bangalore or Chennai or Hyderabad. So these 3 places, lot of new urban level activities are happening. The faculty has to connect with these stakeholders of these companies and arrange site visits. Students will not be expected to do their site visits on such projects. The faculty has to step in and help these connections to be made. Students can choose, on-grade interchanges, underground interchanges, or overhead. That's again for discussion. And then detailed review of each of the building types. You talked about the transport interchange. Now you're coming up with some building types associated with this transport interchange. Each of them have to be, you have to have a detailed exposition of each of these building types. In this case, we are talking about retail, we are talking about hospitality, we are talking about transport. You need to bring up examples for each of these. Then locations identified well in advance, so that if you're from North Karnataka, then you can probably take the students to Hyderabad. If you're from Mysore, you can bring them to Bangalore. So that's a logistic that the department works out. In Studio 3, detailed description of you bring in consultants. In fact, I was very happy to see that in the syllabus, printed in the syllabus, that services consultants have to be brought in. And this is something that the department can work with the neighboring faculty or even bring in experts from the field. A PhD consultant comes and discusses the 3 building types and what to expect. Not much in terms of detail, but at least pointers to the students so that they know that there's more to architecture than just the form that you see. And then you have a mechanical or electrical consultant come. Somebody talks about escalators, somebody talks about lifts, somebody talks about travelators, whatever. And you have HVAC consultants come and then give them an idea of what the scale and scope of such a project requires. Specialties outside of the architect's day-to-day capabilities. At the end of this 3 studios, if everything has been arranged well, they can go for and perform the site visits, again accompanied with faculty members, so that they know what they're doing. They don't just roam around on site, but actually get things done. The plan has to be put in place for what should be achieved in a site visit. Coming back, the following week, they discuss, it's like a show and tell. Each of the 3 groups of students, you can break up the class into groups, and they go studying different building types, and they come back and give a talk about what they have seen and the analysis that's being performed on each of those from each of those site visits, as well as the site in question which they are going to be working on. The following studio. Detailed discussion of the case study that was presented by each of the student groups. Then the knowledge gaps have to be acknowledged. At this point in time, the faculty has to tell, students need to know now that in practice, a far richer set of consultants will be required to do justice to an urban design project of a similar scale, such as traffic and transportation, planners, environmental impact assessment experts, telecom, signaling and signage, acoustics, landscape, hospitality, interiors, swimming pool specialists if need be, passive and captive energy systems, lighting, statutory approval, licensing people. They need to know that these things happen. Financial planners, legal firms involved, project managers, construction planners, security, emergency services, safety drill. So even though they are not going to be doing a detailed work on that, they need to know that having just an architect and a structural consultant is just one part of the problem, and then there's a whole lot of services that need to be addressed. How well they grasp it, how well they can incorporate some of this is left to the student at that point in time. Then a broad battle plan for the next 8 weeks to be chalked out as the magnitude of the design problem begins to sink in. So we have actually come to nearly 8 studios, which is towards the end of the 3rd week, towards the end of the 3rd week, and they've still not drawn a line. That's for them to appreciate the scale of the urban scale of the project. Then the studios begin, where the students can continue with start the design process. If more has to be required, you can actually bring in sustainable architecture principles, which is being studied in that semester, and you can also bring in guidelines for green buildings because that's also being studied in that semester. You can just expose them to it. Students also have to be tasked with sourcing their own data on all the types of buildings, whether it's a transport interchange or a hotel or a shopping mall. They need to know about multiplexes. If it's a multi-level car parking lot, they need to know about ramps and turning radii, whatever, all the mundanes, what we call the mundane stuff, which are actually very important to make that design work. Now, after all this, the design program, which has been talked about so much, now the lecturer actually, the faculty presents the program, the design, this is what the design program is. And then the students debate that. Based on what they have seen, based on the case studies that they have looked at, based on the site analysis that they have performed, the design program is discussed. And the students participate in this either in groups or as individuals and say yes or no, no, this makes sense, this doesn't make sense. Everybody has a hand, should have a hand in making the design proposal, which they are all going to follow, of course moderated by the faculty. So once they start designing, once they get down to actual design of this, the design can be, as some of the slides that before me very nicely put, is you have some work that's speculative, and then you have studios where the faculty can simply monitor the studio, or they can mentor the studio. You can have quiet periods, you're just there to oversee, and then sometimes the faculty gets in, rolls up their sleeves and gets into the design along with the students. So the mentoring and monitoring of studios is something that's a fine balance that probably only, you cannot teach that, it can only come with experience. So here I'm trying to say this in the following way. The faculty is present for every one of the above studios, going around to every desk, keeping a watchful eye on the progress during the monitored studios, and actively critiquing, appraising, reviewing during the mentored studios. At the halfway point, you could have a critique. This is before the serious, the so-called plate making process. I'm told that every time there's a design, there's something called a set of plates to be done. Now, what students do when they come to trainees who come to the office, and suddenly they see a whole different way of drawing production, and nobody actually sits and draws drawings anymore. It's all done. Yeah, it's all done as we know, mostly on CAD, and I'm told that there is a very how do you say, as far as computers go, not much is being taught in the schools. It's like in fact, even in the syllabus it says go find stuff on the internet with regard to computers, and I think the computer programs have to be taught in a very structured way. It cannot just be said you go and find your own information, and somebody is good at SketchUp and somebody is good at Revit or whatever. It doesn't work in practice. You need structured knowledge. So I wish that departments, the VTU, actually puts more effort into making computer education the way it should be taught to architects, not for programmers. And there are a whole set of programs I've seen that they have mentioned Rhino and Maya and so many things, which are all concentrating on rendering and showing the building in a beautiful way, but that's not what it is, as we all know in practice. So we have artists who can render it. Let the students not waste their time trying to become rendering artists. Let them work on BIM modeling and things like that, which are more realistic for the practice. That is something that should change in the syllabus, and that's a separate subject, but I'm asking for that here because it's directly related to the design process. And then we occupy the remaining 2 or 3 weeks on continuing on this the design process, and then there's a requirement for a time problem. So I'm saying don't make a different time problem, make it associated with this project. For example, you can break off from the main design and say, give me the detailed design of the hotel lobby, or something that's part of this project. That makes more sense. So they can do a hotel lobby, or they can do a hotel suite, or they can do a upscale retail center like your Apple Imagine store, or something like that. You can pick and choose. And those submittals, I'm told, time problems have to be done on the same day, or maybe I would think that these problems are quite complicated, that you would probably need three studios to come up with an answer for those, with the submittals required for that. And then 2 more weeks later, the final submission of, at the end of the 12th week, they should be able to give you present their project. I think that's the way I would look at a studio. Okay, thank you.